Hey guys, I'm Oskip, and today I'm going to be taking this amplified world and transforming it into something a little bit more unique. When taking on a project like this, it's difficult to know where to start, as this natural amplified world is a complete mess. You've got pools and waterfalls of lava and water randomly scattered around, random floating blocks, and just ugly, randomly generated terrain that needed to be cleaned up. Which is where I started. I didn't want to change the actual shape of the terrain massively, which is why you don't see any huge changes, just adjustments here and there. Now that I've filled out the shape of the terrain, I mix in various types of stone and scatter in some dirt, grass, and finish off by creating a small river that runs through the centre of the island. Now, the main reason I started transforming this environment was because I wanted to populate it with my next build. I plan on creating a lot of man-made medieval structures and buildings to fill out the empty areas of the terrain, and maybe a cathedral or a coliseum. Who knows, but if you have any suggestions as to what I should build, let me know down in the comments. Now that I'm happy with the main terrain, I decided I wanted to scatter the environment with some custom trees. I used a mixture of all types of leaf blocks to add texture and the slight different shades of green, which would help it look more realistic. I then one by one pasted them into the landscape in different directions and at different angles, needing slight adjustments occasionally to make sure that they fit. This looks 100 times better than using default Minecraft trees, as they make the build look more unique and realistic. Because we're working with an amplified world, I really wanted to add something that fit the size of this place, something that once lived here at some point in time, which is why I began building a giant skull. My intention was to create the bones and remains of giants or creatures that once called this their home. I started by building the main sphere and slowly but surely etched the main shape, and then finally messed around with different materials to see what would fit into the environment better. Once the skull was finished, I rotated it on an angle and began positioning it into the landscape. However, when I placed the skull down, I figured that it looked a little bit out of place, so I started adding in a few extra bones in the surrounding area. When pasting in multiple variations of this skull, I tried to change up the design slightly by adding some horns protruding from the top of certain skulls, and then other skulls I would have cracks forming across them. However, I wanted to do this by retaining the main shape of the skull so that it was still recognisable as a skull. Once I had scattered these multiple skulls and bones across the landscape, I wanted to finish by adding a rib cage, or half of a rib cage, and the spine along the shoreline. And that just about wraps things up. Anyway, I hope that you enjoyed the video and thank you for sticking through to the end. If you are interested in downloading this map or any of my previous builds, then you can get them exclusively by supporting me on Patreon. You can click on the pop-up at the end of this video, or you can click on the link in the description. Apart from that, I'll see you in the next video.